Okay, guys, this is huge. Now, today I'm going to do a video on, my source on the latest memory that have been added to the game and whether you should be summoning for them or not. But one thing I have actually discovered while I was recording this video is that the memory effect for this UR Kuroo memory is actually different to the JP and also Taiwan servers. Now, I don't know whether it's a bug or maybe just a mistranslation, but if it's actually a genuine thing, that basically means global is free to actually change some of aspect of the game to totally different things to how JP and Taiwan servers were doing it. And that could basically mean anything you have read so far about future planning, future character skills or future memories, etc. None of them can actually be applied to global anymore because global can literally just change it at instant. Now I'm hoping it's just a bug, and I will be raising this in the Discord group as like feedback and bug, etc. But let's see. Let's wait and see how the game dev is going to respond to this. Because if it's actually genuine, like I said, this is going to be a massive game changer for any global players who have been relying on JP resources up till now. Okay. Now, let me quickly show you exactly what is the difference. So if we actually take a look at this UR memory and take a look at its effect, it says it increased the equipment's awareness by 12% when they cast their first quick attack ultimate. This by itself is already very weird because UR Kuroo doesn't even have a quick attack ultimate. And then the second half, whenever you do an ultimate, you increase block stats by 1%, up to 1.2 stat. Once again, this just feels like it's typo. However, having said that, because I do play the Taiwan version, this doesn't resonate to me to any of the other effects on the Taiwan server for any of the other mid-blocker memories. So it also feels a bit weird why they just randomly generated some text, which is not copy and pasted from elsewhere either. So I don't actually know where this text is coming from, whether it's an actual bug or maybe Global is actually trying to shake things up a bit. So that's kind of the thing. If we actually take a look on the actual JP server, by the way, some of you guys have been asking me where can I find out the description on future characters and future memories, etc. I only found about this website myself recently, but obviously a huge shout out, and also I will copy the link in the description below. It is actually JP in Japanese, so created probably by a JP player. However, if you have Chrome or any other web browser, you can obviously translate everything on the screen to English, which is what I've done here. It contains obviously a bunch of different guides, which are also very useful, but the most useful thing I've found so far is probably just reading up future character skills and descriptions and also the memory, so you know exactly what to look out for in the future. And if you actually take a look at this, by the way, the guides, for example, the strongest team one, this is actually out of date, as you can see. It's only updated up to the 2nd of May, so take this with a pinch of salt. But in terms of the actual memory skill for UR Kuroo, this one's going to make a lot more sense on UR Kuroo himself, because it says whoever has this memory further will get a flat block stat increase, which is obviously nice. And then whenever you gain a quick attack boost, which Kuroo actually has that from his skill 2, I believe. So this actually makes sense on Kuroo, unlike that quick attack ultimate, which doesn't make sense at all. Then you're able to get 1 stack of above core Titan, and then each stack of Titan increase block by 2.4, and you can stack this up to 10 times. And then the second effect is that whenever you actually use a block special move, once again, this actually makes sense on UR Kuroo because he actually has a block ultimate. Then you're able to consume 10 stack of constrict. This is just basic Titan, okay? Obviously a translation error here. Those two are actually the same thing. You will then be consuming all 10 stacks of that, and then you're able to reduce your block special move cooldown by 10 times, which basically means you're able to use your ultimate straight away again. So this absolutely makes sense on UR version Kuroo, because both the quick attack boost and also the special attack, which is a block move, actually makes sense for him. Whereas the one we have on global, no idea where this is coming from, so that's kind of what I'm hoping it's about, but let's wait and see whether this is actually the case. Okay. Now, I think let me continue with giving the recommendation for the memory set anyway, because no matter whether it's a global version or the actual JP original version, you can probably already see this memory is only going to be applicable for only like 1 character at a time. Now, let's say if we're actually going with a global description, so you'll be increasing your awareness when you do your first quick attack ultimate, and also increasing your block stat whenever you do an ultimate. The thing is, right now, out of all the mid blockers, which actually have a quick attack ultimate, I think it's only going to be Lief and also Hinata. Hinata doesn't even have a block skill, so it's not going to be the best use of a memory on him. Whereas for Lief, at least it has a block normal skill, so this can still be valid. So if you're actually going to use if you're actually going to go with this global description, assuming this is actually correct and actually summon for this UR memory, you're not actually going to be using it on Kuroo himself. You will actually be using it on Leaf instead, which is going to be a bit weird, but that is basically going to be the case. So if that's the case, definitely don't rush to summon for this because it's not very transferable. And then on the other hand, if it's actually going to be this effect, which we have on JP and also on Taiwan server, then this actually relies on you having the ability to get a quick attack boost. Now, it doesn't have to be for yourself. It can also be given from your teammate. However, I believe the only teammate I have found so far which is able to boost just quick attack is actually going to be SR version of Kageyama. And vast majority of us probably already have the SSR version of Kageyama, and therefore you wouldn't actually be playing the SR version in the first place. So that's kind of why this, once again, is not going to be very transferable unless you put it on Kuroo himself, who actually have the ability to get this quick attack boost. So that's kind of why no matter whether we're going with the JP description or the global description, this UR memory is not going to be hugely transferable. So unless you actually have the character I talked about, so either Lief, if we're going by this description, or UR Kuroo himself, you were going by the actual description based on JP server. Otherwise, this one will probably just be useless on a lot of the other mid blockers. So that's kind of why it's not actually going to be your highest priority in terms of summoning unless you have the character I just mentioned. So having said that, if I don't actually want to summon for this UR memory, does that mean I should go for one of the SSR? Now, to be honest, all three of the SSR are actually very, very interesting. Well, actually, mainly the one for Tendo and also Goshiki are actually very interesting. The one for Kenma is actually very nice, but once again, it's only for Kenma himself. The first half of the effect, you're able to increase your set stat by 4%, so that's nice. You're able to increase your whole back rows receive stat by 6%. That's also very nice. However, second half of the effect actually will play around with this keep it alive stack buff, which I believe is only given by SSR version of Kenma. So that's kind of why if you are actually going to use this, unless you actually put it on Kenma himself, otherwise you only have half of the memory. So that's kind of why this is. It's still very good memory if you actually have Kenma, but if you don't have Kenma, then you can probably definitely skip this. And then if we actually talk about the one on Tendo, Tendo's one is also going to be very interesting. You're able to increase your flat block stat, which is nice. I think this is actually slightly higher than what Suki's one is able to offer. So this is actually a quite nice multiplier. And then when you actually perform critical, you're actually able to reduce block ultimate cooldown by 1 net crossing. Now, 1 net crossing doesn't seem like much. However, if you actually max dupe it, you're able to reduce it by 3 net crossing. And a lot of time, ultimate is only going to be about probably 6 to 8 net crossing anyway. And remember, if you actually block, assuming you didn't actually win the point straight away and it actually goes over to opponent net for them to receive and then come back to your side, that's 2 net crossing by itself already. So if you're actually able to reduce it by 3 net crossing, a lot of time it can actually mean you can actually use your ultimate block every other rally, which can be very, very much of a game changer. So this is definitely massive. However, this only kind of only shows its true effect when you actually have a max dupe. And that's because in this game, max dupe is actually at dupe 4, so you basically need 5 copies. However, as you can see, at base copy is only 1 net crossing, and the highest copy is at 3 net crossing. And the way it goes is that if you're at a dupe 0 or dupe 1, I believe it's only 1 net crossing, then dupe 2 and dupe 3 is going to be 2 net crossing, and only at dupe 4, i.e. 5 copies, it's going to be increased to 3 net crossing. So if you are actually going to go hard on this memory, you kind of need to do at least 3 copies just so that you can increase this by at least 2 net crossing. So you actually see a big difference in terms of upgrading it. So that is potentially something you actually want to bear in mind. And then lastly, we move on to this one, which is from Goshiki. This is probably the best wind spiker memory for the SSR. So best SSR wind spiker memories out there because the stats it's able to give is just absolutely insane. If you actually put this at max dupe, okay, 20 flat, which is always passively available, plus another 32 when you're doing your team around. That's a whopping 52% increase in power stat. That's actually insane. Like purely looking at this multiplier, and if you actually ignore the raw stat, this is actually higher than some of the UR memories out there. The closest UR memory I'm going to compare to is going to be the one for UR version of Bakuto, because that one also kind of plays around with this team morale awakening. However, the multiplier for that one, for that UR memory, is actually even lower than this one from Goshiki. So this is definitely one of the best. In fact, I think this is the best SSR memory for Wind Spiker.